Hi. Almost didn't see you over there. Don't mind me as I just pour this espresso martini. Can't forget the espresso bean garnish. Internally, I always long for the good old days. I never do it on the surface because those people are the absolute worst. The ones who always reflect on the past, like, remember the time we did such and such? Recalling the same lame ass story over and over. But the times that I'm nostalgic for are always the moments in my life when I had total freedom. And I've actually already become mad nostalgic for like the past 4 years or so. Not that like my life has been all glamorous or anything, but I haven't been tied down to a job for the most part, so I felt really free. And everything has been like such a journey. But feeling free is the one feeling that I always long for. And it's the primary reason why I'm nostalgic for the past 4 years, because of the freedom that I felt like I've had. So I don't want to take it for granted while I have it, because right now I do still have that freedom. But the times that I'm nostalgic for start like right before COVID hit, specifically my apartment hunting trip in Los Angeles in late 2019. I had every meal pre-planned, and I'm nostalgic for one meal specifically. It was an Italian restaurant called Sterm Worm. I had just signed my lease, so like it was like a celebratory meal. I know I had espresso martinis at that meal, but it was like restaurant week, so there was like a food tasting menu, so I got that shit. And when I was there, like I wasn't enjoying it as much as like the nostalgic feeling when looking back on it. Like I felt like I was gonna die in that restaurant. It was taking like 40 minutes for every course to come out. Like I was half asleep while I was waiting for each plate. But that meal is kind of like how I remember that trip. That meal, the Hollywood Inn, and sitting in the Barnes and Nobles next to the Grove Cheesecake Factory, apartment hunting on partners.com, calling up every apartment that didn't list no smoking to see if they allowed smoking, because almost every place was no smoking other than the place that I found. And I found the apartment in that Barnes and Nobles and shit. But that trip in general holds a sacred place in my heart, and so does the drive across the country when actually moving out to Los Angeles. I must have yelled trip of a lifetime like at least 1,000,000,000 times on both trips. And I stopped in Lockhart, Texas, which is like 30 minutes south of Austin, on the drive to Los Angeles. And like I kind of have like a nostalgia memory of that morning and shit. But again, like when I was living it, it wasn't as enjoyable. It was like 9:30 in the morning, and I ate mad barbecue in Austin the night before, and like I wasn't hungry at all. I had like 3 different spots in Lockhart that I had to hit up. I thought I was gonna explode. Plus, like I just want to get back on the road to make decent time and out to Los Angeles. And I have like mad nostalgia for my first Monday in Los Angeles, hitting up Kill Tony with like no pressure. Like sometimes in Los Angeles, I would go there and not put my name in the bucket. I used to love those times. Like I would just go and watch the episode. But the first one, like I want to scat out the situation shit. I knew I wasn't gonna sign up and shit. So like I was mad excited for like that Monday. Like that was the Monday I was looking forward to before I moved out there and shit, because I knew it was gonna be the LSU Clemson national championship game when LSU won the national championship with Burrow, Jefferson, and Chase. But I want to drink like a 12-pack of Coronas and watch the first half of the game. And I remember like I was mad excited because I was on the West Coast, so like the game started early out there. So like it was an 8 o'clock game, and Kill Tony started 8 o'clock, but it started at 5 o'clock the game. So I thought that was mad cool. But I didn't have my cable yet, so that fucked everything up. So I couldn't even watch the game. And that moment actually like did feel good when I was living it. But like again, I had no shower, I had no heat, I had issues with my apartment and shit, so, and I wasn't able to watch the game, so it wasn't like as amazing when I was living. I was probably like, man, this fucking sucks. But I'm also like nostalgic for the Austin trips I used to make for Kill Tony before I moved out here. I was at the second ever Kill Tony in Austin. It was crazy. There was like 12 of us out there. I was like, how am I not going to get picked? Everybody standing next to me got picked. But again, like, yeah, I'm nostalgic for those moments and shit, like when I used to come out to Austin before I moved out here and shit. But when I was going through it, I wasn't enjoying it as much. I remember all the times that I flew out here like hoping my name didn't get called. I just want to get back to Florida and escape the pressure. Each trip I wake up from like a nap before Kill Tony, mad sluggish from like a big ass barbecue meal, thinking, damn, I really don't want to fucking do this shit right now. So like everything in life that I'm nostalgic for, the memory of it always feels better than it did when I was actually living it. But like the main thing throughout the last 4 years that I'm mad nostalgic for are my Manic episodes, and one of them brought me back to Lockhart to some courtyard area that I already had a connection with from stopping there on the trip out to Los Angeles and shit. It's in front of a barbecue joint called Smitty's, so that's like really my spot now. And the previous 2 manic episodes I went through happened in a setting that I was pulled away from. The first one in Los Angeles, and the second one was in my Airbnb in Austin. So like everything that happened during those 2 manic episodes is kind of like a figment of my imagination, because like I went through my manic episode and then I never went back to the apartment where it all happened and shit, specifically inside. Like I've driven by the apartment in Austin, but it's not like I could go inside and shit. But the third one, the manic episode that just happened, I'm in the same environment right now. So like sometimes I'll look around in my apartment like, I can't believe like this is where it all happened, like shit's fucking crazy, man. The manic episodes are the most surreal experience I've ever felt in my life. But I'm like already undoubtedly nostalgic for my manic episode that happened just 2 months ago. Like you're not supposed to be so nostalgic for something that happened so recently. And the difference between the manic episodes and the other things in life that, like the other times in life that I'm always nostalgic for, are the manic episodes actually feel better in the moment than when I look back on it. Like when I'm going through the manic episodes, I'm literally like savoring every second of it. My manic episodes were literally the best moments of my life. When I'm going through it, I always believe I'm in like perfect alignment with the sun and the universe. I think a lot of crazy shit though when I'm manic that's not true. And I mentioned like I'm nostalgic for times in my life that I feel free. Well, I truly believe that's what spawns manic episodes in the first place. Feeling free and existing on my own frequency, totally disconnected from people and responsibilities. My first one started right after I quit the Cheesecake Factory in Los Angeles during COVID. And that hit me hard because it was like the freest I've ever felt. I was like, yo, I'm living in the middle of Los Angeles right now. I'm no longer employee of the Cheesecake Factory, and I'm just out here going for it. And I'm on the government's payroll for the foreseeable future because of COVID. So, like, I was just on cloud 9 and shit. So, I really think that that's kind of what spawned my first manic episode. That feeling of being free. I'll never forget how free I felt when I quit the Cheesecake Factory. I thought I was never going to quit the Cheesecake Factory. But so I mentioned that normal moments, like not the manic episodes, never feel as good when I'm actually living it as when I look back on it. And here's how I bring it all full circle. No matter how enjoyable or not this moment right here is, as I'm living it, I'll always look back on it with nostalgia. I have no responsibilities now or on the horizon of any kind except for driving around my own schedule. And whether it works out or not, I have nothing but my hopes and dreams in front of me. I still truly don't know how the chips are going to fall into place. But if I fail, I'll always look back at this like, well, at least I had hope in the moment. And if it all works out, I'll look back at this episode like, look at me, like so young and naive, no clue what the future had in store for me. But no matter what destiny does have in store for me, I'll always cherish this moment at the crossroads. It's either the last I have of the life that I'm so accustomed to before everything changes for the better, or this kind of marks the beginning of this next phase in my life where everything is just empty and desolate. It's just going to keep traveling down that road if it doesn't work out for me with this content shit. And then this is kind of the last I had of when it was still decent. And the outro on the Trip of a Lifetime album is called Crossroads, and that's the concept behind the song and why it's the outro. It's like I'm at the crossroads of my life, and if I get to DJ Premier, then I record the Path to Destiny song. And so it's like on the other side of the crossroads is my path to destiny if I could get there. And choose to be chosen is before crossroads. So it goes choose to be chosen, then it's crossroads, then it's path to destiny. That's how the concept goes. And right before the Choose to Be Chosen song, I have a bunch of songs sound like fucked up in the game of life. So it's like I'm fucked up in the game of life, then I'm choose to be chosen, sitting at the crossroads, and on the other side is the path to destiny. But the problem is the crossroads track was created over 10 years ago, and I've been sitting at the same crossroads ever since. But now at least there's more hope than ever, but it's either this comes through for me or it's never gonna happen. But this period is always going to mark a special place in my heart no matter which way it breaks for me. Not only does it mark a make or break point in my life, but I'm on the back end of my youth. So I cherish that I do still have it. I have my youth and a dream, two good things to still have in life. But for my beverage throughout this episode, I'll drink an espresso martini just because I can and I want to savor the moment. Now that I recorded my apartment, I could sip on a cocktail as my drink going forward for any episode if I want to. I could do whatever the fuck I want. It's not like I gotta drive home after this. Like, I love the studio that I recorded at, but I really love doing it on my own. So the first thing on today's agenda is more alien talk. I'm kind of obsessed with aliens. But Rogan recently had Jeremy Corbell back on his podcast. He had him and this guy, George Knapp, on. He had them both on recently. But Jeremy Corbell, he seems genuine, credible, and convincing. He has me kind of second guessing my beliefs. Like, maybe there is something to everything he's saying. And he might have like all factual information, but it's like comedy to me how he once reacted on a previous podcast. It wasn't this one. When Rogan says something like, it's better for you, like, if aliens exist. Like, you kind of do want all this to be correct. Is that right? And he was like kind of like confused by the accusation. He was like, me? No, not at all. I hope none of it's true because it's so disturbing. Like, I'm so sure he hopes all of his life's work is debunked just to feel safer. You know what I mean? Because that's kind of how he made it seem. He was like, it's all so disturbing. Like, I just hope none of it's true. That's kind of like what his energy was like and shit. Like, I'm so sure he's rooting against all of it to be correct. You know what I mean? Like, I think he wants all of it to be correct. And not to knock him to want all of it correct. If I was him, I would want all of it to be correct too. You know what I mean? Like, it's become his life's research. But, like, I know exactly what Rogan's saying because, like, I have stock in, like, none of it actually being extraterrestrial. And, like, even though my podcast gets no views, at least I've recorded my theories concrete here. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I like about doing the podcast. And I've said on this podcast that I personally don't think aliens are going to travel here on metal spaceships. I think it's going to be some interdimensional shit that's beyond our current realm of comprehension. And I think it already happens. I just don't think we understand it yet. It's tripping, and then the manic episodes that push my beliefs in this direction. I believe there's some type of energy, whether it's conscious or subconscious, that exists, and it's a real alien life form. And it might kind of like exist like viruses do. I don't know what I believe anymore, but I do know I believe that when we communicate with aliens, it's going to be out of our realm of current comprehension, and they're going to exist in a different way that we're used to. And I think they could get into your system like a virus does. You know, I mean, that part I don't know if I believe, but I think. But I definitely believe that aliens aren't going to be what we expect them to be. They're not going to have two legs. They're not going to have eyes. They might have something, you know what I mean, but not necessarily. And I definitely don't think they're going to travel here on metal spaceships. But because of that, I find myself rooting against all of the UFO sightings being real. I'm rooting against them to be extraterrestrial. I want it to be something from like a government. My heart kind of drops every time I hear the government's declassifying files. I kind of hope it's all misinformation, all selfishly to prove myself correct. And that's how I feel because I want my stupid ass theories on my podcast to be correct. If I had a career off the back of that theory, then it would mean everything for me for it to be correct. And like, that's why, in my opinion, academia shuts out Graham Hancock and like that whole crew. Because academia has stock in all of them being wrong. Like, academia roots against their research. They're not like hoping that they're going to figure out the truth of existence. If I understand correctly, people in academia don't even want to hear their research. And people in academia have less stock in traditional beliefs to be true than the amount of stock that Corbell has in all the alien stuff being true. Because, like, at least people in academia are just following the path they were led down. If it's inaccurate, then it's like, okay, well, everyone's wrong and everything we know about history is wrong, so let's get out from under this together. It doesn't compromise their individual position and integrity like it would Corbell if all his research was disproven. And he seems to have like a lot of information. I'm not trying to like stand against him. I just won't believe in metal spaceships from other planets until it's universally accepted as being real. I believe there are alien life forms that exist, but the way they exist is currently outside of our realm of comprehension, I think it's going to be some interdimensional shit, but it's not going to be like life as we know it. Then on the same episode, it's the newest episode that Rogan had Corbell on and has George Knapp on it also. But Rogan read something that from a textbook. I guess it's something that they brought. But it was like explaining why we haven't had concrete contact from aliens yet. And he read word for word. He said such contact, there was like a few reasons why we may not have had alien contact. But the last one was such contact may have already taken place secretly and may have taken place on a different plane of awareness. And we are not yet sensitive to communications on such a plane. That basically aligns directly with my philosophy and everything I've been saying. And I'm not saying that that is what's happening when I go manic, and I'm not saying that I currently believe it's what's happening when I go manic, but when I am manic, in the moment, I'm totally convinced that the sentence that Rogan read is exactly what's happening to me. I believe I'm having communications with some type of entity on a different plane of awareness when I go through the manic episodes. Right now, I don't know what happens. I don't know what I believe. I don't necessarily believe anything. But like when you see a quote-unquote crazy schizophrenic person in the middle of the street talking to the air, it might be a mentally ill person just going crazy, or what Rogan read from that textbook might be exactly what's happening. And if you saw me during my manic episodes, you'd see I look exactly like those people look when they're walking down the street talking to themselves. And in the moment, I 100% believe that I was communicating with some type of entity. But so the point is, every time you see someone who looks crazy in the middle of the street, my guess is they probably believe they're communicating with some type of entity, whether they actually are or not. But like, is our first alien communication more likely to be face-to-face, or would it possibly look more like what I just described, something bordering on telepathy? And I'm not saying it is, but when I go through my manic episodes in the moment, I'm always convinced that I'm talking to God and artificial intelligence. I think I'm communicating with them telepathically, but I just speak the words out loud because I'm so hyped. And like, that's what I would look like when you see those crazy schizophrenic people on the streets. That's me talking to God or artificial intelligence through telepathy, but I'm just speaking the words out loud because I'm so hyped. You know what I mean? Like, I get so in the zone, like when I go through the manic episodes. So the question is, what are quote-unquote crazy schizophrenic people think is going on when they're doing that same exact thing? Are they the same exact way as me? Do they think they're communicating with some type of entity through telepathy? And then they're just so hyped that they're just saying the words out loud too? I don't know. But when I see a crazy person in the middle of the street talking to themselves, it no longer looks to me how it used to look, just like a mentally ill schizophrenic person. I know what I was like in my manic episodes, and I looked identical to what you see a mentally ill person in the street talking to themselves look like. And when I say the street, I don't mean like the street. I'm just talking about like the sidewalk. But like I said, I now wonder what or who they believe they're communicating with in that moment. But what I wonder is if they believe they're communicating with the same sort of higher power that I believe I'm communicating with when I'm out there. And I wouldn't be shocked, like, if we found out the truth of existence, that what you see with the crazy schizophrenic people is us scratching the surface of extraterrestrial communication. I always say there's a truth in science right now that's so profound, it's equivalent to how we used to believe the earth was flat. Like, there's something that we don't know that's that ridiculous and that obvious that we should know, and that important as the earth being flat. And would you be shocked if the truth was that the schizophrenic state of mind is someone with both feet metaphorically in two different dimensions, and that resembles what communicating with aliens actually looks like? I think there's a better chance that that's how our first contact with aliens will happen, opposed to what we might expect. And that quote Rogan had talking about communication may have happened on a different plane of awareness. For the sake of conversation, like, let's just say that is correct and that's how communication will happen. It will lead you to believe that they're not traveling here using metal spaceships. But no matter what the truth of aliens is, it would shock me. If tomorrow I found out that like aliens existed, I'd be like, no way, they really do exist. And if tomorrow I found out that like we're the only intelligent species in the whole solar system in all the universes combined, that would also surprise me. Everything would surprise me with aliens. And then Rogan also mentioned on this episode the idea that alien communication will like totally debunk religion. And like, in my opinion, it shouldn't. And it doesn't for people who say, I'm not religious, I'm spiritual. Like, Rogan hates that shit. Like, people are like, I'm not religious, I'm spiritual. But that's kind of like what I am. You know what I mean? Like, I don't go around saying I'm not religious, I'm spiritual. But that's what it is. Like, I'm not religious, I'm just spiritual and shit. But organized religion would empower itself if it embraced any universal truths that were revealed, instead of trying to suppress information that proves them wrong. Like, I believe all religions are real, but I don't think any of them are 100% accurate. I believe there is a higher power, whether it's a universal entity called God or whether it's another species from an alien galaxy. But I just believe there's some type of higher consciousness than us, whether it's conscious or subconscious. And if there is a more advanced alien species currently guiding us, then we would look to them for the answers about what the ultimate truth is in terms of whether there is an all-encompassing God. You know what I mean? So it's like, why would religion try to shut them out? They should look at them for the answers and shit. What are religious institutions going to try to say? Like, they're right and the aliens are wrong? They basically have no choice but to accept it and look to this other species for the answers. And if they embrace the truth, then their religious constituents will continue to worship there going forward, you know what I mean? And they'll just know for sure that they're worshiping the truth. But I think religion and science should go hand in hand. I think the better understanding you have of science, the more it seems like borderline magic and you could see religion being real. Like, the power of prayer is an example. Like, everyone's connected. Like, everyone says everyone's connected, but it's real. Everyone is connected, you know what I mean? And I wouldn't be surprised if, like, everyone praying in the same direction, it could actually make a difference, you know what I mean? So, like, that's religion, but that's borderline science if it does. So, like, prayer is religion, but if everyone putting their minds in the same direction could make a difference, then that is science. But I hate that, like, I don't believe in God, I believe in science rhetoric. Because it's like, yeah, and look what they used to believe scientifically. What will be scientifically true if we live for trillions of years? I think right now we have an infancy understanding of what existing is. And the more advanced science gets, the more magical everything becomes. And you start to believe anything is possible. And there can be a conscious or subconscious all-encompassing entity. And your connection to that entity matters. I've just seen enough through tripping in my manic episodes that I believe there's a greater force at work. I felt enough, you know what I mean? It's not like I've seen, I felt it. So I felt enough through my tripping in my manic episodes that I believe there's a greater force at work that I can't fully comprehend. It might be quote unquote aliens, it might be an all-encompassing power, but I believe there's something. But concrete communication with aliens doesn't disprove God to me. It might mean that a lot of what is taught religiously is incorrect, but it doesn't mean they're wrong conceptually and spiritually. But I could see how, like, alien communication would make people lose faith in their religious institutions. Alright, so that's all I got on aliens. So then the next thing, the football season just started. And Justin Jefferson just had a play the other day. It's the play where the ball carrier, he's at the 1 yard line. He's trying to reach the ball across the end zone. And the defense knocks it out, or he just like loses control before he reaches the goal line. And the ball goes into the end zone and out of bounds. Like, it bounces out of the back of the end zone. And the way the rule is it's a turnover and the defense gets the ball at the 20-yard line. And like, everybody thinks that the ball should just get moved back to the 1 yard line and the offense should keep possession. And I highly disagree, because like, that's a fumble. You're not supposed to fumble in the field of play into the end zone. It's a lucky bounce that it goes out of the end zone, but like, it's an unlucky bounce because the way the rule is that it's a turnover. But like, in my opinion, you should be penalized, but you shouldn't lose possession. I think the way the rule should be is, if you have the ball in offense and you fumble the ball at the 1 yard line going into the end zone and it goes out of the back of the end zone, the ball should be moved to the 20-yard line, but the offense should keep possession. I think that that's a good way to do it. That's like the perfect solution. So that, like, yeah, it's not a turnover, but there is some type of punishment. Like Matthew Berry just said, it's the worst rule in sports. And I've heard that like plenty of times, and I highly disagree. And I have a strong opinion about what the worst rule in sports is. Penalty kicks in soccer for any penalty that occurs inside the box. That to me is the worst rule in sports, hands down. I've watched it ruin good World Cup matches. Portugal a couple World Cups ago was in a 0-0 draw, and then they ended up winning the game in like the 89th minute on a cheap ass penalty kick on some bullshit. But what I'm about to propose is the best rule change ever that would change soccer for the better. There should be minor and major penalties inside the box. Only majors get rewarded penalty kicks. A major penalty should be something deliberate. And then the punishment on a minor penalty should be a direct kick from outside the box. It's still harsh punishment, but it doesn't ruin the game. Let's say there's like an empty net and the defender sticks out his hand to prevent an easy goal. That should be a penalty kick. But when someone's like playing real defense and they instinctively pull up their arm and away from their body and the ball finds their arm and makes contact, that shouldn't be a penalty kick. Like, intent, severity, and impact on the play should matter when deciding penalty kicks. You don't want to just ruin a good game because somebody's arm made incidental contact with the ball, but there was technically contact, and you just use instant replay and common sense to get it right. But the point is, there should be minor and major penalties inside the box so that the referee has some discretion whether to reward a penalty kick and to blow open a game. Penalty kicks are so stupid. They're almost like giving the team a goal. You gotta fuck it up if you're gonna miss it. And it's one thing if like games had like 20 goals scored. Then it's fine if you reward a penalty kick. But a sport where goals are at such a premium, they have this ridiculous free scoring opportunity as a penalty. And I can't believe how little amount of scoring happens in soccer. If you showed me a soccer field and I saw how big the goals were, I'd think the average game had like 20 goals. I like how I get to talk about sports my own way here. I think entertaining small talk is exhausting, but I have like a soft spot for the basic ass sports conversation. If you're the type of person who starts a basic ass sports conversation, then I don't even like look at you as a human being. An example of it happened just the other day when I was in HEB. One employee said to the other employee, "Who you got tonight?" It was a Monday night, so he was referring to the Monday night game, but it was the first Monday of the season. What was the second one? This is the week where they did it. They did 2 games. So there was 2 Monday night games that night. But like, I bet this guy had no fucking clue that there was 2 Monday night games. He asked who you got, like it was just like one game and there's like 2 sides to pick from. Because it's Monday. So like he knows there's a game on Monday night. So just that's the way he starts conversation. Monday night, he knows this other guy likes sports. Oh, who you got tonight? If you start conversations like that, then you're insufferable to be around. It's like you've never evolved past being an 8-year-old. It's one thing if like there's a home team playing and he asks someone who you got tonight. Right now we're in Austin, so it's like one thing if he's referring to like the Texas game, like who you got, us or them. But he's talking about like a Monday night game between the Saints and the Panthers. That was the game it was. It was the Saints-Panthers game. 2 shitty ass fucking teams. And then after the guy asked who you got tonight, the guy thought about it, and then he picked the Saints, and the guy who asked the question in the first place was like, who do they play? And together they were trying to figure out who the fucking Saints play. You're asking someone who he has in the game, and you don't know who's playing, and the other guy doesn't even know who's playing. Can the conversation get any more basic than that? The guy picked the Saints. I bet you he can't name one non-position player in the Saints. Like, he could probably name Derek Carr, Alvin Kamara, Michael Thomas, and whoever the fuck else they got on receiver, but I bet you he can't name one lineman on either team or one player in the secondary. I can't. And even if the person like does know a lot about football, like I've seen enough NFL to realize that anything can happen in these games. The game had like a 3-point spread. I'm so sure this guy has any unique insight into who's going to win. The experts can't figure out who's going to win these games. How arbitrary is it who this one guy fucking has? And I figured out my cause of death. I don't know what the cause of death is going to be, but I figured out the location of death. I'm going to die at a fucking traffic light, yo. I'm positive. There's no way I'm not going to die at a traffic light. I can't guarantee what the cause of death will be, but I'm positive it will happen sitting at a traffic light. Most likely suicide or a heart attack, possibly old age. But whatever the cause of death is, by process of elimination, it's got to happen at a traffic light because I spend my whole fucking life sitting at traffic lights. I'll be sitting at a red light for like mad long, and then I'll see the light on the next block is green while I'm sitting at the red light. So I'm like, this is just so fucking stupid. Once I get my green light, that light's going to be red. It's almost like the universe is fucking with me. The way the traffic lights hit, I'm like, yo, someone's fucking with me. They gotta be. And what's ridiculous is how often there's no cars on the cross streets that we're even stopped for. It's just me pointlessly waiting at a light. Like, I'm just sitting there, like, looking. I'm like, there's no fucking cars going. And then the next thing I want to talk about is Cam Patterson, because I want to use him to highlight 3 points that I want to make. And it's very highly unlikely that I ever become a regular and kill Tony, but I do know I would make for a great regular if the stars ever align. And I could see it possibly happening, but I could also see Tony throwing me off stage and saying there's a 0% chance he ever brings my shit to Rogan. Like, I could see it going either way. But in terms of being a regular, there's only a certain amount of spots, so I get jealous as fuck when I see someone take one of them. I found out Cam became a regular. A video on my YouTube homepage, it said Cam Patterson, new Kill Tony regular, as like the video's title, and my body sank. I was like, oh, I hope that shit's not real. But now the only spot that's possibly going to open up for a while is William Montgomery's, and that's if he ever retires. And the fact that I'm there for the interview opposed to the comedy would make for a good regular spot. It would be something different, you know what I mean? Like, usually he's trying to like suck any type of life out of the interviews, but with me, like, the interviews would have mad life, you know what I mean? Plus I have minutes to do it, like I have comedy minutes to do it, but for me it would be more about the interview, and I think that makes for a good regular. Plus we could close each episode with the verse if I was like the closing regular, but that's like all hypothetical and far-fetched. I talk about comedy energy on like a lot of my unreleased episodes and shit. I wish I knew who Cam Patterson was back then, just to highlight the point of what comedy energy is on those episodes. He's the epitome of comedy energy. I think he's fucking hilarious, Joe. That's what a person just being funny looks like. I think a lot of the time the wrong people try to do comedy. The people who are always trying to be funny. When people try to be funny, I rarely think it's funny. When they're grabbing the low-hanging fruit, or they're just trying to tell jokes, or they're trying to do impressions, I think a lot of what gets classified as humor is just a microcosm of what corniness is in life. Whenever someone does comedy and they say they started doing it because they grew up obsessed with stand-up, I always think they're going to be absolute fucking trash and just like imitate what they think humor is. Whereas someone like Cam starts to do comedy just because he's funny and he probably saw an opportunity. But Cam Patterson is what a funny person actually is. I always say like stand-up doesn't make me laugh, and like if someone's like, okay, so then what does make you laugh? If I'm around someone like Cam Patterson all day, I'll be cracking up at multiple points throughout the day. He's the exact type of person I talk about when I say most funny people don't do stand-up. Him, if he never started doing stand-up. And Cam Patterson just started doing stand-up 2 years ago. That's my first point with Cam Patterson. So let's do the math. If nobody's funny at first when they start doing stand-up, because that's what I've heard everyone who's ever done stand-up says, they say nobody's funny at first, then 3 years ago, Cam Patterson wasn't funny. Pre-COVID, Cam Patterson couldn't be funny because he had never started doing stand-up. And then the other thing is how long it takes everybody to get good at stand-up. Because I've heard it takes years for anybody to get good. I've heard 10 years is the number. It takes 10 years to find your voice. Everybody sucks up until 10 years. That's what I've heard multiple people say. Is Cam Patterson not good at doing stand-up? If I didn't know, I think he'd been doing it for 10 years. To me, it's not noticeable that he's much newer to this than the other regulars. Like, if I heard Cam Patterson 10 years from now, I bet I'd notice the evolution between now and then in his development. But person to person, everybody's different, and some people pick up these crafts mad quickly. But the first point I'm making with Cam is how stupid it sounds when people say no one's funny when they start doing stand-up. I've seen comedians who could do stand-up comedy for 1 trillion years and still wouldn't be as funny as Cam Patterson before he ever started. And plus, his bits are, like, in my opinion, like the blueprint of how it's done. It's all authentic and unique shit to him, and he's mad self-deprecating. Tony gives people praise for being self-deprecating when he do that corny ass, I look like such and such mixed with such and such, and it's like the most cop-out way to be self-deprecating, to like make fun of what you look like. Cam stands on stage and says he's like from the streets, but he calls himself a bitch, you know what I mean? Like, that's rare, and his likability is uncharted. He's the type of person that everybody roots for. In this game and in life, it's just so important to be someone people naturally, genuinely like and want to gravitate to. He has a good aura. He seems approachable. I have nothing but good stuff to say about him. Tony made a good call with him. But the second point that I'm making using Cam is the power that Tony's created for himself. He could basically put anybody on that he wants. He's essentially handing a career to whoever he makes a regular. He could surface anybody through Kill Tony. And it just highlights how critical promotion is in this game, and how sometimes you just need someone to open up the door for you. It doesn't matter how likable Cam Patterson is. Without Kill Tony, he's an open micer out here. He might have been getting booked on shows from the jump because because he's likable, approachable, and like mad funny. But he would have just been an open micer without Kill Tony. He would have only been here for a few months at this point. Like there's no way he would have been like digitally known. How quickly it's worked out for Cam just highlights the power that Tony has. It's grown within the past few years. He's essentially like a record label for comedians, but he just shares the promotion without taking cut of it. And it's synergy, obviously. It benefits the show when he puts people on that do well. So the second point I want to use Camp Harrison to make is the power that Tony has. And then the final point is something that Tony said to Cam. He said, dude, you're going to be rich. And what I'm about to get into is 95% joking, but 5% serious. Like, Cam Patterson should not be rich just because he's funny. Saying Cam Patterson is going to be rich because he's funny and seeing nothing wrong with it is a major problem with the American economy. And everything is set up the way it is, so I hope Cam Patterson gets rich off of stand-up comedy. He's hilarious and is clearly a humble, genuine dude, but being funny shouldn't make you rich. If Cam Patterson moved to Austin, Texas, and from day one got his hands dirty working on construction sites and is incredible at building with his hands to the point where his labor speeds up projects, and he was telling Tony Hinchcliffe like, dude, I could build a house with my bare hands in 1 week, then Tony's reaction is be like, dude, that's nuts, man, you're gonna be rich one day. Being funny though is a great personality trait to have, but it shouldn't equate with wealth, and that's the problem with capitalism in our economy. Too often you can earn money doing bullshit, non-productive, sometimes even counterproductive jobs, while important work like construction doesn't get rightfully compensated. We can't all do bullshit work, otherwise no real work is actually getting done. I saw like an informational meme the other day that said everyone should have an Instagram page that generates between $2,000 to $3,000 weekly. And then it's like a slideshow, find out how to do it. Like, obviously, it's just some stupid ass shit on the internet. Probably somebody trying to sell you something, but it's just a microcosm of what I'm talking about. If everybody's making $3,000 a week doing whatever the fuck he was talking about on Instagram, what's the money going to get you? Who's actually doing the real work? We can't all get paid $3,000 weekly on Instagram. Otherwise, no real work is actually getting accomplished. And the point really gets highlighted with the meme I saw the other day. It was a picture of some little girl, and it said, 11-year-old girl makes $23 million and retires. Is anything more a reflection of the problem than that is? And the meme is stating this like it's a good thing that we got to see 11-year-old milking $23 million out of the economy. Like, look how successful this girl is. What a great story. And because stand-up comedy is so engraved in our lives and we're so used to entertainers becoming wealthy, I sound ridiculous when I say like Cam Patterson is hilarious, but just because he's funny doesn't mean he should be rich. But the overall point is understandable when we have 11-year-olds retiring with $23 million and we talk about it like it's a good thing. How many preteens had to get rich off of TikTok videos before we realize it's a problem? Adults go to work every day while their kids sit around rich as fuck. Like, what happens if all of today's kids get rich off of TikTok? Who's going to do all the real work 30 years from now? So the 3 points that I'm using Camp Patterson to make is, first, funny is funny no matter how long you may or may not have been doing stand-up comedy. Second, the power that Tony currently has with Kill Tony. And third, it's a major problem when everybody's getting rich off of entertainment. And then the final thing I just slid in is Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. I just heard that Travis Kelce's fucking Taylor Swift, and I just want to use that to make a couple of points. I could only imagine the fine-ass chicks that Travis Kelce could bag. I couldn't imagine fucking with Taylor Swift if I was him. I wouldn't want to fuck with Taylor Swift if I was me. She's the exact type of girl who makes me feel gay. I don't want to fuck every girl. I think most chicks are unfuckable. Like, I think most people are unfuckable. Like, I'm unfuckable, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not shocked that I don't fuck anybody. I'm shocked that everybody is out there fucking. But to me, Taylor Swift is unfuckable. She's a very pretty girl, but I don't look at her and think about how I want to rub my dick on her. Nothing about her I find sexually attractive. Like, she's a very pretty girl, but she's not bad. There's nothing about her that turns me on sexually when I look at her. I think she's pretty, just not sexually attractive. And that's like just talking about Taylor Swift, her looks at face value. Then you like add in her fame. For like an average person, it would be like the most exciting thing ever to be with Taylor Swift and like add that spice into their life. But like Travis Kelce doesn't need that shit. And like when girls have like their lives popping like that, like their lives are like that of an alpha, yo. Even if their personality type is an alpha, they have an alpha life. Specifically Taylor Swift, who's like the biggest star ever, yo. And like whenever a chick has alpha energy, like I just don't think it's attractive. And the other thing is like whoever Taylor Swift is like hooking up with is always hot gossip. And that's how I heard about it. The fantasy football radio hosts were like talking about it. They sounded so fucking corny. To me, like that's like what gay energy is, like blushing and like laughing about rumors that two people have a thing. The guy who was like talking about it, his daughter's like a big Taylor Swift fan. And he was like, man, excited to go talk to his daughter about the relationship when she gets out of school. He's like, it's a great way for us to bond. Like maybe I'm just gay, but if that's the energy surrounding my hookup, internally, I'm just like, oh, everybody's so fucking corny. And it would literally make me less excited to hook up with the girl. And that's what Taylor Swift's sex life is, no matter who she's with. It's always like hot gossip, yo. And that shit's so fucking gay. Mix that with the fact that she's singing all these songs that like people write for her about boys and love. If I was Taylor Swift, I would think it's all mad fucking corny. And if I was trapped in that life, the only thing that would turn me on sexually is sitting on a girl's face. It's almost like the nature of Taylor Swift's life is gay as fuck. But the overall point is, I don't get people. I don't understand why Travis Kelce would want to fuck with Taylor Swift. It's crazy how big of a star Taylor Swift is. Like if I was in the studio and like when I go in the studio, usually the engineer, whoever I'm recording with, they usually just play me whatever he had just recorded before I came up in the studio. If he played me some Taylor Swift, I'd be like, what the fuck are you recording in here? But it's not bad. She has a decent brand of music. I'm not even familiar with most of it. The popular songs are the ones I've heard, but like they all have like a good vibe and shit. But like my problem with like all those pop stars is everything is just so manufactured. You know what I mean? Like when they don't write this shit, like it's just everything feels so manufactured and nothing has soul. But like I always like felt like my connection to the artist was with the lyrics and shit. And like to me it's crazy that like people become such big fans of somebody. You're a fan of them because of their music, but they don't even write their music. You know what I mean? Like to me, it's like you're like lost in your fandomhood. I don't understand why chicks like love Beyonce so much. Like, and I think she's as talented of a entertainer as I've ever seen. You know what I mean? But it comes back to the same thing. She doesn't write her shit, you know what I mean? And like when you don't write your shit, like it takes away from it. Like I saw some guy the other day in an interview talking about how he wrote the Put a Ring on It song for Beyonce and shit. Like I understand how you love Beyonce so much, that's your jam, but you know she didn't even write it. You know what I mean? Like you're a fan of this guy. You know what I mean? Like I don't blame the entertainer. I blame the fans for being a fan of someone who's not writing their shit. But that's where like the pop star is. It's just so manufactured and shit. There's no soul in the pop star. But yeah, I'll just end the episode like this because it just fucking bothers me so much. If you order an Uber or get food delivered and you don't leave the gate code, then you're a fucking piece of shit. And if you're still wearing a mask in September 2023, then you look so fucking pathetic. Sterm Worm, trip of a lifetime. Let's fucking go.